So if you've worked all month and at the end of the month, you check your bank account and you realize, like, how did we get here? Why is there so little in the account? Then this video is going to be for you, because the biggest issue in the residential HVAC space or the home service industry in general is that they lack the ability to actually truly understand their gross margins. And the gross margins isn't just like some sort of accounting term that you need to know. It's the leading biggest predictor to understand whether your business is going to grow or become profitable. Now in this video, I'm going to show you where most people get confused in how they handle gross margins. And then the second way I'm going to show you is how to actually calculate your gross margin. So where most people get confused and calculate gross margins, and you're going to have to bear with me, my handwriting is definitely not the best. I've been in the industry for 6 years. I've been on the tools. And for those who have been on the tools, you know, writing is not your forte. So where most people get confused is revenue minus everything, right? And everything can lead from, you know, your rent / lease. This is going to be your office staff. This is going to be your trucks, your softwares, and they end up calculating their gross margins that way. But what's wrong here is this isn't actually your gross margins. This is your net margin after everything. And this will end up leading to like underselling the job or not pricing it correctly. And then your profits end up taking every month or at the end of the year when you take in the net profit. And you end up wondering, like, where did all the money go, right? So the right way of doing all this is going to come down to projected and actual gross margins. Which might sound confusing because you have two different gross margins, but all you're really doing is you're calculating what your gross margins are going to be before you start the job and what the gross margins ended up at after you finish the job. You're going to take your revenue minus your cost of goods, but in this case, in the home service industry and the HVAC industry, you don't really have a cost of goods. You have a cost of doing the job. Which is just your labor costs, your materials, and your equipment costs. And then what you're left with is your gross margin. So this is going to be your true gross margin. You don't include any office staff hours. You don't include in the rent or anything like that, because like I said, that is your net profit. And on a quick side note, this is exactly what we help with. We help residential HVAC businesses grow and scale their business through tracking, selling more, and staying in control. Now, if you're actively looking to grow your business and you're just looking for some advice or some help, if you go down in the description, you'll see a link to get in contact with us. You can just send us a message whenever. We'll always reply. Now you're probably thinking, okay, I calculated the gross margins. I know where I'm at, you know, like I know how to get them now. Now, what should I project my gross margins to be? Your gross margins should sit at around 40%. This should be your baseline, okay? When you calculate your projected and you're aiming for 40% right now, you don't have to aim for 50, 55%, whatever that once you get into the 50 and the 55%, that's where true growth really starts to happen. But for now, when you do your projected, just to figure out what you're doing, you're going to take your job, what you sold the job for, the cost of goods or the cost of doing the job. And then you're going to calculate it and you're going to find out what you got. After this, you're going to end up doing the job. And after the actual job, you're going to do this once more, because we all know once you do the job, there's always some sort of cost that comes in after. Maybe say you break a light, you break a tile, You guys got to replace the carpet because the guys went in there and they kind of got a little dirty. So there's always a little bit more cost that needs to go into the job that's kind of unexpected. But say there you needed more materials, you needed something else for the equipment, you needed a humidifier that wasn't specified, anything like that. And you end up calculating it as your actual, which ended up being 30%, you're 10% lower than where you want it to be. And that takes a huge hit on your net profit. And when you get into this stage, you got to figure out, okay, how do we price accordingly, or what do we need to do in order to get it back to 40%? I'll show you how to properly calculate it with an example that I used on a call last week. On the call, I used the furnace or like a system replacement as the example. So say you have $10,000 or you sold $10,000 through a furnace or a furnace AC, furnace heat pump, whatever it is. And your cost of doing the job was $6,000. That leaves you with $4,000. From the $4,000, you're going to divide the original revenue, which is $10,000, and you're going to get 0.4. That's going to be your 40%. Now, if we go back to what I said earlier, where once you have the projected versus the actual, and you're in the actuals, and you're actually losing 10% on every job or majority of the jobs, you're going to look at this and realize there's only two ways to fix that gross margin. And it's going to be to increase price or lower costs of doing the job. And when you just increase the prices, that's probably going to be just the easiest way of doing it. I'll show you. So you charge $12,000. You still have the original cost of doing the job, which is $6,000. You're left with $6,000 at the end of the job, divided by 10,000, and now your gross margin is at 50%. Okay. By just increasing the cost, you can literally double or triple your net profit at the end of the year. Your gross margins are used as a baseline to figure out whether your business is growing or will be profitable at the end of the year, which is always important because you need some sort of baseline. That's why I like doing the projected versus the actual, because when you can figure out what you're actually hitting, you can adjust for it. So I'll end the video off like this, and I'll give you a little challenge. The next job you end up selling, whatever it is, furnace, AC, whatever, do this calculation. Do the projected first. You're going to do projected, and then you're going to do actual. Sell the job, figure out your gross margins. Say it's like 38%. You'll actually notice that you're probably in the range of like 30 or 40%. And then at the actual, once you completed the job, you're going to do it again. And when you do it again, you're going to figure out exactly where you ended up. And you're going to do that for the next 5-6 jobs straight, just to get an idea of what your average gross margin is. If you're sitting below 40%, you got to either up the price, which is the easiest, or you got to lower costs. But depending on what stage your business is, lowering the cost is going to be very difficult. Increasing the price is going to be the easiest. So I hope that helps. I hope you like the video. So only my second video, so we'll see how it goes. I create these videos just because I actually enjoy business. I want to see other people succeed, and I don't want to see their businesses tank, because nobody likes to be broke.